evening everybody. For about 4 or 5 years now I've neglected my air rifle and air pistol shooting. I can't do it easily at home. I've got no garden to go out to do it in. But I have an indoor range that I've had for some time, although it was very basic. And I've made it much more interesting, I think. You can probably get an idea from behind me now, but we'll have a look at it in a bit. Before going any further though, I've got some LED work lights going and they give a bit of a wavy sort of line in this poor lighting up here, so I apologise for that, but it's a very cheap way of getting some reasonable lighting. Well, we've got a range of different targets and I am after one more to make it a little bit more different. I'm yet to find that different target and something that's suitable for lower powered stuff like air pistols. I'll come on to the safety later, but as you can see they're pretty much common or garden targets, except for one perhaps. That one is this rather sweet, really, biathlon style target. 5 targets. They start quite large and go progressively smaller. And now I haven't hit these very often, but I haven't actually shot at it, I think probably 4 times of my little shooting circuit exercise, whatever you want to call it. So basically you hit that there and it comes up, and then there, and so on and so on and so on, if you're that good, or in my case lucky. The problem with this though, I'm yet to really sort out what's going on, because sometimes it appears that they bounce back down. Now I've only shot it with a 1960s BSA Meteor, which 10 years ago was probably putting out about 6.5–7 foot-pound. You know, let's say 6 foot-pound for a good guess, shall we say. It may be that it just didn't go quite up enough, and I suppose really if I was shooting with just under 12 foot-pound air rifles I'd have to stand back to the 9.5 metre line really. Now these were, I think it was only about 25 quid or so. Really good. I got them off eBay. I can't remember what the place was called, but it was in Liverpool. But yeah, it's a really good one, that is. And there is a string that you can pull out and pull on it and it'll reset them all. But I don't need to do that really, because I generally come up and make a score of whatever make a note of whatever I've scored here and then carry on to the next one, which is a common or garden bell target. Not quite like your official sort of bell target league bell, but there's a nice bell behind there and it goes ping very satisfyingly. I might point out, mind you, that these splats are not mine. That's Lee's. He's just started shooting and he did actually get some of his 2.2 pellet through the hole and make a nice ping, but as you can see, shooting a bit low for most of the time. Coming down to here, bog standard paper for warming up, trying to find out where your zero is and a bit of tweaking perhaps. Down here, a heavy duty target holder, paper target holder, really good, really solid, no issues with that regarding safety at all. That is as solid as it comes really, nice, fairly thick, I think that's about 1.5mm steel there, bit awkward to fit on there though. I had to put a mount at the back and bring it out. Coming down we've got a couple of knockdowns. I haven't hit these yet and they are quite stiff. They're well powder coated and they're quite stiff anyway, but I haven't managed to knock these down yet. But to be honest, that's still really quite stiff. But 2 of those, and arguably the most fun one, the magnetic one. Hit that, knock them all, hit the reset, up they pop. Lastly we've got this rather fun spinner target. And with the, shall we say, mid-power, quite old now, like 50–60 year old BSA Meteor, some of them you do have to aim well to get it to work. At the top and at the sides, no problem. As you can see, these sort of hits will knock it over like that. The thing is, as you can see, they could do with half less spokes and targets because it doesn't really move much. If I balance it out again like that, and say knock this one over, it doesn't move that rapidly, and if you're using a single shot Springer, by the time you've loaded it, it's slowed down a bit, and it never really gets too hectic, shall we say. Now down below, these at the bottom, you do have to hit quite near the edge because you're fighting against gravity to get them back up there, but you can do it. I don't think a CO2 air pistol would do it though. That's the targets. Let's look at the safety side of things. I used to have here a box, a crisp box sort of size, cardboard box. In that was all sorts of things like old t-shirts, maybe old towels, old pillows as one as well, old fleeces, to, if not stop the pellets, slow them down. Of course, there was always something behind that box as well, which we'll come on to in a bit. That was very messy. I cleaned this up about 3 weeks ago, and it was such a mess. The fine little bits of, almost like tiny bits of feather from whatever was in the box that has just disintegrated over the years after being shot at so many times. But you get a piece of A4, rather like that one there, you put a target on it or draw one on, and you do some, like, I suppose what you might call pre-zeroing, say, of a new rifle or a new scope on an old rifle. You get it something like at about 6 to 8 yards, and then you take it out to wherever you're going to shoot, outside, say Furnace Mill or whatever, or Harriers or something like that. And you go out and then you do it properly then and reach it out a bit to say 15, 35 yards. That's my normal zero for 177 anyway. And so on. So in other words, it saved a bit of time. Now, of course, you do have to think about safety, and I can't say that this is completely safe, because there's always that once in a lifetime cock up by yourself, or something goes wrong and the pellet comes back at you. So, as always, be safe, folks. Wear hearing protection, and you do have to hear with this roof lining with some of the air rifles, like the MPR FT, because the compensator at the front, it throws the air right at you, and of course the noise of the air. So you do have to wear earplugs for that one. But like a Springer, no issues really. Obviously wear eye protection. But we have made a really good attempt, or at least I think so, with what I've got, to make a decent backstop. For a start, there's cardboard. There's cardboard upon cardboard upon cardboard upon cardboard upon cardboard, and that has been there for some years. There is plywood, this thickness here, which is what, 1/4 inch. That in itself isn't that good. You can see here there's a few marks, and there's one embedded a bit in there, actually, a bit of a pellet there. And I think down here, in this thicker ply, there's some there. Now, going into the ply ain't an issue, of course. Eventually it'll wear a hole in it. So if you've got some metal, some tin, use that, and that's what I've done. So cardboard, 1/4 inch ply, 1/2 inch ply, I think it's 1/2 inch MDF down there. We've got some tin here and there, some of it might be aluminium actually. These are off one of my old, well, the old tower, computer tower I used to have, and they might be aluminium actually. But one thing, even though I've been shooting this 6 yards, it hasn't gone through, but move around where you're going to shoot for your warm up and zero. That way the life expectancy of the metal will last a lot longer, because you're not shooting in the same place all the time. Shop bought target holders like this. They're basically a target holder and backstop all in one. Just prop it up somewhere or fix it to a post or whatever, or as long as you've got something behind it just to stop it if you miss, which is what all this is really for. But in its own little contained unit, that's really good. Bit awkward to fit, so you have to mount it really with a couple of battens on the back. Here we've got some steel. I can't remember where that's come from, but that's been here for about as long as this target setup has been here in its basic form. It'd be great if it was taller, of course. So we've got a good range of backstop materials to minimise any issues regarding the pellet going through the backstop. Cardboard, plywood, MDF, different thicknesses of wood, some steel, and I would like some more, some tin or aluminium sheet, that sort of thing. To me, to my mind, my experience, pellets are safer than BBs. I don't do BBs, although I did have one gun, I don't know, 25 years, maybe more. It was a Colt 45, but if the BB, and they were plastic ones, if they didn't split, they come right back at you. And the metal ones you get now, I think they're copper or maybe copper coated, don't know, I'm not used them myself. They've got even more chance of coming back to you. The pellet, when it deforms, generally, if it comes back, doesn't get very far. And I've had a bit of a tidy up, but there's a few here on the floor here, which you probably can't really see with a GoPro, but there's a few lying around. I've had a bit of a tidy up, so there's a bit of a pile there. I have had the odd pellet reach me at 6 yards at about shin height, and this is usually when I've naffed up and hit the wood and it hasn't deformed enough, or it hasn't gone in to the wood. So the idea is to put another target here, so I'm shooting at less wood, reducing the risk of it coming back at all. But ideally, as and when I can find some, I'll put some more steel up here. Lighting wise, we've got that up there, which is an extension lead which has been up there almost since the day I moved in. Essentially this is a loft, although I call it my studio. We've got a work light here that was from Screwfix. Although it's a bit worn out now and it's a bit lanky, it will no longer stay up. And I've used these for quite a few years. I've got 2 of them to do videos. They're not brilliant, but it's certainly a lot cheaper than doing proper sort of photographic setup with a studio and proper reflectors. And talking of reflectors, we've got a sheet here, king size sheet, white, about 12 quid I think from Sainsbury's, 15 quid, something like that. Now don't go on about the fact that it's got creases in it, because I know what you're going to say. You could have ironed it, couldn't you, before you put it up? Well, what's an iron? This is 2-fold. There's many folds if you look at it, but I've only just put this up about an hour ago. We've got string across here, a couple of drawing pins up there, string across here, and then a Meccano hook there, because I've got loads of these. Got very little in the way of curtain wire and hooks and stuff, but I've made this up, and if I get round to it, if I get round to it, I might do it properly, but let's see how this goes on as a test. The first thing, and the main thing it was put up for, is a reflector of light. Now ideally, I suppose the main light source could be doing with moving round to the right, but then of course it's in the way you're shooting, so it's got to be out to the left or to the right. Now maybe I could put a bit more of a tidy up and put one there, but for the most part this is okay. I could do with a bit more up here, this side, and I was hoping that light there would have been a bit better than that, but well, whatever. So it's currently okay on the left side down to about this level, and then the magnetic box, but the knockdowns is quite hard to see. I have bought some paint. It's actually Tipex or liquid paper to put on here because it will dry quick and it's going to chip as soon as you shoot it, so I ain't going to bother trying to get some fancy paint, and I certainly not going to use spray because it'll go everywhere. The other thing that this is for, there's other items back of there, and it helps to, if the pellets did decide to depart from the targets that direction, to not necessarily stop them dead, but of course it's not going to go through once it's hit steel or wood there. So a bit of a reflector of light and a deflector of pellets. Now in the next video I'm going to tell you about a little shooting, what would you call it, exercise. It's sort of inspired by things like Finnish Brutality and Desert Brutality. Not anything like that, running around deserts and snow and pools of water, but add a little bit more than just shooting at a target, knocking it over, or shooting at a paper target and counting them up. So it basically involves obviously adding up your score, but taking off bonuses, adding bonuses and that sort of thing, but we'll talk about that in the next video.